we don't, at this point, we have nothing that's needed to even be discussed that's not within guidelines, that's what.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
That's what it says.
And what's the legal services budget based on compared to this year's expenses? We're contemplating going down,
No, we're
No, we're
contemplating
staying the
staying
same.
the same.
Yep,
Okay.
So last-
Staying the same as the appropriation.
same
Yes.
as the,
How's actual round versus appropriation?
We don't have enough data to conclude that it should go down or up, so I
Do you have
decided we should
a
level
little bit
fund
of a
it.
sense of, like, to date, is it ahead, is it behind?
I don't have
Where, you know, we just had 3 months of bills, and out of the 3 months, it looked like we're projected to maybe be $200 in deficit by the end of the year.
Okay, so this should be adequate.
This should be adequate.
And the professional services is that accountant or another accountant?
Professional services
Don't we have an
are,
accountant?
pardon?
So
Professional,
how would we pay the accountant?
well, that
She
would
has
be,
her own budget.
Not the town account, we don't have an outside audit.
oh, that's
under
in the
town
town.
accountant's budget.
Budget,
Right.
oh, okay.
So what's this for?
So this is for acoustical studies.
So it's for the annual
annual
report for Beth
report.
Johnson, it's for anybody that we,
If
You
we
need
want
an
to do
engineering study for
engineering,
something within the
if
town,
we wanted
something
to go
happens.
to a consultant
Use
to
that for the
review, or,
Public hall? What's it?
that's-
Acoustic engineering for the public hall?
Yes.
Well, it could be used for that,
It could be.
it's valid
Yes.
for that.
we're using it for that.
Okay.
yeah.
Hopefully not
Is that
all
what
of
we
it
asked?
we need it for
Yes.
Study's
things
only,
that come along, yeah, okay,
the
good.
study's only 5,000.
yeah,
Okay.
the
Right,
study's gonna be.
Yep.
So it's just,
about
it's just the same question, then we can move along, and to me, this has been very helpful, to get a picture of what's under the department, and to confirm that we're doing things the right way in terms of forming budget.
Yeah.
There isn't anything that at least should be discussed that's needed, and the selectmen especially are comfortable with.
I'm very comfortable, but I just have one note to make, is last year I had made a recommendation that we would increase legal services by 10,000. They only approved 5,000.
Okay.
And I'm willing to be able to say that for the next year, we can see how that goes.
Yeah.
God willing, hopefully there aren't, you know, any more Donny Bristol farms out there. And it's all a crapshoot, but I'm using my best educated guesses to that this will be sufficient. If it's not, we can deal with it as a special town meeting issue down the road.
Or if there's some
The 40B will eat up some of that.
unexpected lawsuit, don't go to the.
Right.
But we have, zoning board has two
Yeah,
right now.
Thank you, that was helpful to me, and I'm also,
very
the
helpful.
rest, I'm assured that we're in sequence and we're doing what we need to do, at least at this.
Now, the
stage.
next time, we will get to the point of talking about,
The
do we
various
really wanna do
items
that?
we
Are
brought
we
up.
really gonna do that?
That's step 2 and 3, this was step
That's
1.
right, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kelly and Dawn, and anyone else.
Kelly,
Can
can
I
I ask that
summarize?
Sorry,
you
if I
gave us the
overslept.
5-year projection as a draft. Can we please get that as an Excel also? It's so much easier to work with it.
Which one are we talking about?
This is the 5-year plan that you sent out. It was a PDF format.
Are you,
The 5-year projections.
are you talking about the forecast?
Focus.
Yes. Yes.
Could we get
Yeah.
it in Excel format, please?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Just to recap, so I heard we have Board of Selectmen Minute Secretary, which was in there. I don't hear it, I'm just going by consensus. I don't see any objections to moving that forward. Then we have the Town Hall Maintenance Coordinator. We will provide a B1 or B2 sheet to explain it, and then maybe a memo just to summarize that Board
But
of
no, not
Selectmen
coordinate, I don't think, not a person,
No,
a
okay.
service.
service, okay.
Yeah.
So would that go under professional service? That can go under professional service
Right.
within the town hall
Right.
budget.
Okay.
Could
Okay.
be.
That's somewhat strategic, I just can't see a body with benefits and all that.
I
Let's
don't
at
either.
least do something, let's at least have someone other than Donna that we can call.
Well, to suggest that we hire somebody and pay benefits and all that stuff, that's a pretty
Makes no
big
sense,
step
yeah.
at this point.
Yes, is there any consensus, or do you have a feeling as where that should appropriately go? Should we just add it to professional services under special, or add it to town hall?
Town
It should
hall
go to
maintenance,
town hall
town
expenses
maintenance.
because it's a
Yeah.
specific service for a
Yeah.
specific.
That's
Specific to town hall.
Yep.
So I was saying within town hall, I think you can get a professional service line item.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
That would be our request.
So I don't wanna put it under town hall maintenance, because
sure.
that takes care of other
right,
stuff.
it's the physical things that you have to buy that break or whatever.
So-
I like the idea of the town hall professional services line item.
And I believe that's an easier, cleaner thing for the accountant's office.
Are you envisioning that being both a facility mark and IT?
No,
No,
Just
no,
facility?
two different
I'd like
things.
to talk
We're gonna
about
throw an
the
IT
IT.
I know
over
you
there,
Yeah.
throw it. Again, we're not funding anything, we're just discussing.
Yep, just throwing it out there to
Do you wanna,
start high,
do you
work
wanna
down.
have?
We've
her-
talked about that,
Professional
we've
services.
talked about that, and we're getting closer and closer and closer to needing that person.
You know, I don't know yet because we haven't started to implement this plan. You would have a better sense if,
well, the 2 servers went down this week.
and what do you
And one-
usually
and
do
one-
when that
And one
happens?
server went down when my volunteer was incapacitated and couldn't get here, so I had to tell that department that they had to wait until Bob showed up.
Don't we have a line item for that now, for anything for computers when they go down?
We need a person. It's a
Let me ask you
physical
a question,
person.
it's a good topic to bring up, just remind us, boy, we have Bob.
Yep.
Bob, but tell me more about Bob.
Bob's volunteer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We don't have a line item at all for when computers break? No?
So wait a second.
Retrofit.
We,
So retrofit is just servers. And I understand I just said the servers went down, but retrofit manages our servers.
And security and
So
backups.
if it breaks, or I get a call, Bob gets a call, somebody
But Bob's a
physically,
volunteer.
Right, that's the dilemma. That's the issue.
but one of them happened at 10 or 11 at night. He came in at 12 o'clock at midnight and came and reset it as a volunteer. The next one happened at 6:30 on Tuesday. He had a medical surgery or medical procedure on Tuesday that he couldn't drive, and he can't work on Wednesdays, so he came Thursday morning. I'm just telling you.
No,
I
that's
mean,
insane. What-
so
Can I make,
I told the
Okay.
assessor's office
Yeah.
that I am not, there were 10 steps and I'm not doing them.
okay, can I
So
make a
fire me.
suggestion again, this is step 1 only, everybody else can vote against it, that's step 3, whatever, but analogous to what we just did, and thank you for asking that question, somewhere in the right place, but again, I don't see it as a body, I see, like, I just, not that it's the same as my little office, but you know, I have an outside IT company.
Yeah.
And I can not, a lot of them do require a certain amount of month, but the one I have, if I don't talk to her in 3 months, I don't talk to her in 3 months. Today we were on the phone
And
for
you
3
don't get a
hours,
bill.
you know, yeah.
so right now, there's nothing, there's just Bob, there's no line item
We-
though,
we
if
need
he
that.
can't handle it, there's no one else. When you said
So,
retrofit.
okay, so I do have Jake, who is.
Is he paid?
He is a
served?
paid consultant, and there is a line item in your town hall budget
Okay.
for him. He is, I don't know, $125 an hour, whatever, and he comes when Bob can't do it,
Okay.
and on Thursdays.
And if it's above Bob's pay grade.
So the tier is that it's identified, I call Bob, if Bob can't do it and it's a bigger piece,
He's like our desktop
we
support.
go to Jake.
Is
If
Jake a company or is?
Jake is a
Yes.
company of one.
But is he adequately funded, and if he can only work on Thursdays,
Correct.
then no disrespect,
Well,
we should
that's
get rid
the
of Jake and
issue.
get
He
Fred.
comes in when you need him and Thursdays.
No, he comes in
No.
when we need him, and Thursdays he's sort of designated as Topsfield's
He's
time.
available on
But he
Thursday,
did come in
he's
on
not
Monday
here.
because of issues with the treasurer collector and Munis.
So it may not be what we need exactly, but there is a line
We
item
need
right
to
now, and we
upgrade.
have
Yeah.
someone, it's gonna
And
be
it's
looked
been,
at.
Let's
Jake's been
discuss-
with us, how many,
For
6
years.
years?
For
So
years.
whatever the
years.
line
I don't
item
know.
is,
For years.
for just step 1,
He's very good.
it
How much
should
is in there for
be
Jake?
IT,
2,300.
technical support, or whatever the right word is.
Yeah,
And it's we don't have a lot of time, someone can do a quick assessment of if we handle this in an adult, somewhat business-like manner, that
Actually,
we'd have
4,900.
qualified professionals available only, you know, as needed, I'm not, you know,
right.
and put a reasonable number in there.
Mhm.
Which
We
isn't
can
to
talk
say
about
that we don't look to
Numbers.
offset it
How often you
elsewhere,
call, how
that it
often
doesn't
you
get
call Jake.
approved this year, that
Make
whatever
sure
the
that you
norm,
can-
but at least let's bring forward the topics, the discussions.
Okay.
For the record, in the sense that amount of services you do versus the amount of equipment you buy. One of the reasons that we've got a problem with the servers is that they tend to be old. And there has to be a balance when you do it, you don't do it every year, whatever.
Yeah.
But based on a recent discussion we just had, that we're at the point that we should be getting new servers, and that would reduce the occurrence and the amount of effort that we might have to put into.
Then put
Which
that in
is-
there, right?
Which is why the capital budget will include a line
Oh,
for
okay,
new
great,
servers.
great.
And
I mean,
that'll be
it's
at our
all-
next regular meeting.
That's where it should be.
All right, but doesn't mean that I don't need somebody for IT.
On Thursday, as long as it's Thursday.
Well,
One
even
other-
with new equipment, you're still gonna need
One-
somebody, maybe.
One other consideration that will become more real as we move forward into the next fiscal year. There's nothing set in stone yet, but I'm getting indications that probably within the next year to 18 months, 6 months to 18 months, if Barbara retires, she is currently the systems administrator for the Munis system.
Yeah.
Only by default, not by choice, not by
Yeah.
love of Munis, because she just landed with her. And when she retires, she's been covering us, she's been sort of holding her own, but that's going to become a very obvious apparent need when she retires, especially if we have our next treasurer collector who doesn't have Munis experience. So we are looking at a succession planning issue if we don't have resources in our toolbox to deal with that when she retires. So I just want to throw that out there as another urgency that we need to consider when we talk about this issue of IT support, because it goes beyond just having somebody for desktop support. It's about the Munis system, which spend a lot of money on and requires a lot of one-on-one time.
Does Barbara have an assistant treasurer?
Well,
Yes.
yes, but
Does she know Munis?
no,
No.
well, enough to do what they do for collections, but not certainly a support administration level. And what we're finding though is that when you need to troubleshoot a problem with Munis, you're usually having to stop what you're doing, call them up, wait for somebody, hear back from somebody, stand by the phone. There's a lot that goes into it that most towns would have a specified IT person sort of choreographing all of that. You wouldn't have your treasurer just stopping what they're doing and trying to troubleshoot those types of issues when there's, her goal is to be, collecting money, paying bills and collecting money for the town, not necessarily administering the Munis system. So that was just one other point I wanted to bring up, that it's going to be, it's looming around the corner sooner rather than later.
Okay,
All right.
so we're ready to move on to the next item, please.
Maybe.
So, our next item is, we've been very careful at every step, so I'll keep doing it. We're talking about formulation of town administrators' goals and objectives. We distinguish them from the town goals and objectives, not that there isn't an interlock or a correlation or anything, but they're distinct in our contracts and stuff. And that when these are set, these will be at least in part the measuring sticks, for lack of a better descriptor, and the town administrator's evaluation, according to at least the current contract, will be based on that. And I got a question at the last meeting about the timing, so, we're talking about goals and objectives that I think have to do with the current fiscal year's performance. And so I imagine that depending on what the city board wants to do, the evaluation will be done. To me, it will be done at the beginning of the next fiscal year, but it's either gonna be at the end of this fiscal year or the beginning of the next would be logically. And I don't think that needs to be said at the moment. So Lynn has been kind enough, working with Kelly, to come forward, again, to some degree, the foundation obviously was the town goals, but to then tailor those and extract from them a formulation of what will become the town administrator's goals and objectives with this board's. Okay, is that right? You got the floor.
Okay, do you all have, and I don't know,
I know,
the
anyone
copy.
do you need a few
I-
copies?
It came out before.
Let me
I
just.
didn't bring them.
We're not on board docs.
He's not on.
There go the trees.
While we're waiting, Dick, I got a question, simple question for you.
Okay, just so you're on, not only in the meeting, but on camera.
Well, yeah, it's
Yeah.
I don't know what you're gonna say. Whoever does know what you're gonna say, I didn't know what it was.
How long does our UPS system last with our computers?
You're not doing
I-
this.
If we lose power.
I don't know the answer.
Okay,
No, Lynn,
We talked about this. I believe
Oh,
it's
wait,
like 2 to
okay.
4 hours.
okay. Fine,
Okay, but I don't know the answer.
fine. I did ask you that the other day, yeah.
Are we recessed or?
No.
Everybody walked out.
Well, Kelly went to get some copies and he had to take a break.
Okay, so there, not that anybody would do anything, but keep in mind that the camera's on, right? Sort of thing.
We're not gonna vote while he's gone, is what you're saying.
David, would you like to address the camera in any way? We have screen time available.
There you go.
I don't
We have
have,
enough
I don't
copies
have
for
to
you,
talk so I
David.
can
We're having
listen and make
technical
the
difficulties.
notes. One question. Can we share any support resources with Boxford, Middleton, things like that? General question. It's a little niche need or occasional. Is there any benefit to getting contacts or help from them? I don't know.
I
Just throw it
think
out.
that, I mean, since I've been doing anything in town, that's always been a perspective that
Okay.
people keep in mind.
Sure.
You know, and to the extent where, you know, the most dramatic example being the schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
But, and I think that's the type of thing, maybe if we can get a facilities thing rolling, maybe there's a school model that would work, or with one of the towns, so I think that's a really important perspective.
IT becomes a bigger and bigger
Right,
monster
IT,
after
yeah.
a while.
No
Yeah.
question.
You know, if the schools have support, maybe it all works together, I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll be having, actually, we were just talking about organizing a meeting with some of the managers to discuss those very topics in Essex County.
Yesterday in the town hall building committee meeting, the discussion came up, the point came up about a facilities person. And somebody said, hey, Essex might need one of those, you know? So we might be able to find some other towns that need those people part-time.
Lynn?
Okay, so Kelly and I sat and we talked about the Board of Selectmen goals and how we could tie in what she's doing day to day with some of these that are kind of new, additional. And so we decided to structure them consistent with the Board of Selectmen goals, so that you can see directly Kelly's input to each of these. So not everything that's on there would be done by Kelly, but we wanted to highlight those things that would be spearheaded by Kelly and Kelly's responsibility. So this actually was put together by Kelly. In going through, you can just see each of the 9 responsibilities and what she thought that she could accomplish this year. So I don't know if I have to walk through each one. You can kind of read as we go through and then ask any questions. The one under item 1 that I think, just to make clear, that is probably in item C, maintains protocols, procedures, et cetera, would be in training, necessary training. Because there are people who are not, or have not received enough training for what we're gonna be asking them to do as far as maintaining on a go-forward basis. Or maybe the people have changed positions, they just need additional training. So item 2, pretty clear, financial policies, that's pretty straightforward. The forecasting, everything that we've talked about, she's going to prepare the 2 5-year documents. The town budget encompasses all of her responsibilities that she usually does to pull together the budget and to prepare the warrant and to prepare for the meeting. So a lot of her business as usual is under item 4. The town administrative contract, she's working with us to ensure, successful negotiations. She's compiling the community stats, which we have reviewed before and will continue to talk about to help reach resolution there. Item 6 and item 7, so we broke that down. We had a lot more discussion on the detail underneath both of those. So you can see kind of a summary of what she'll be accomplishing under operational systems. We'll start with that. And we talked about the steps to actually accomplish this. First being conducting interviews with the department staff. So she's going to be meeting with the staff to get their insights and suggestions for improvements in their area, talking about things like goal setting and planning to make sure it's all coordinated from, to support what the board wants to do and what Kelly wants to do. Communication within and between departments to see if there's ways that we could streamline that or improve communication. Training where necessary, teamwork, policies and procedures, service delivery, and performance measurement, considering the annual reviews and making sure that objectives are laid out and then evaluation done against those. And then she would be working to put together a plan to identify short and long-term actions, and those would include action items, timeframes, and resource requirements, along with why she's recommending those benefits and savings. Where possible, she and her team will implement short-term actions. Some things can be done right away. They don't need to be put off till later, so where possible, she'll do that. And then we talked about doing an annual survey. We didn't put it specifically down here, but to obtain employee assessment on how they're making progress with the plan. Item 7, the town hall technology. The systems here we're talking about is software, just, but you know, the capital gets pulled in a little bit with this because if you're having problems, just like we talked about, you can't run the software on hardware that's not working. So the steps would be to first develop an inventory of software used in each department. And in that inventory, they'll be identifying the annual software costs, including capital and support requirements, so that ties in with what we just talked about. Identifying any duplication or underutilization of software, and the people who are in the departments are best able to share that with us. And then identify short and long-term recommendations to improve the effectiveness and efficiencies. So that's the 4-step process, and it's kind of a high level here on her objectives, but that's kind of the approach that we talked about. The downtown revitalization, she would be supporting us in our effort in working public-private approach that we talked about, and helping to identify resources that are available at the state level and helping push those through. And the sign bylaw is pretty straightforward. Working with Dick on this, reviewing all the procedures and rules to see if there's any suggestions to make for modification, and then implementing outreach to make sure that everybody understands what the bylaws are and ensuring adherence to those.
Are you comfortable with these now at this point?
I am. I think what's really important is that Kelly is comfortable with them because she's the one who will.
Well, that was my question. I had
Experience.
to ask her how she feels about this because it, there's a lot of it's already done. You've got a fair amount of it done already, but there's a lot more to do.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm less concerned with what's on this page because I think this is great direction and leadership of the board to be putting these priorities on a piece of paper. I'm slightly more concerned about all the other things that tend to pop up, and that's realistic and it's part of the job, but it also makes it very challenging, which is why we came up with some of the strategies that we did with regard to the budget. So for instance, having the person do a minutes secretary for the minutes will help me to be able to accomplish these goals if Debbie doesn't have to spend time doing minutes. So with these goals in mind, that's why we were really trying to think of ways to make sure that the budget fit this. We're already doing the forecast, but to present the forecast to you is just the first step. We have to maintain it, keep it up, and then deal with any public records requests that come from that. So I feel comfortable with this. I feel really good about where this is. I think it recognizes the ownership, the shared responsibility and the ownership of the Board of Selectmen working in partnership with me as a town administrator and with the other officials of the town. So I really feel great about this document. The only one amendment that I might make is to add in the training component. To your point, I really agree with you. I received training when we first opened up, when we first got board docs and when we first did Fire Direct in the website. But having now, it's a few months out, now I'm trying to go on and build website, the website page for the public call. And I'm realizing that there's a lot about it that I don't know. And I'm sure that that's the case with a lot of other department heads. So to be able to integrate a training component to number 1 would be simple, just adding develop website maintenance protocols, training procedure staff. That might be the only thing I might add because I think that's an important component that can't be overlooked. So I feel very good about this. It was great working with Lynn on it to help me to sort of frame what the board did for their goals and to put it in terms of my responsibility with respect to those. So I thought that was quite helpful. And then also, you know, as a way to sort of regularly update the board, I think that it's very easy, and I probably have already done that by integrating some of these items into the TA report that I provide to you at each meeting. So it makes it very facilitative for me to have this in front of me. It also makes it much easier when I go to the department heads at our monthly department head meeting and I say, the board voted for these priorities. What do we need to do to make these happen? How can we use them to make your department run smoother or more efficiently? So the website is a really good example. So if I bring that up, then I can maybe offer the you know, the potential that we could have all of the administrators in every department have a training on the website training, and maybe just have them all gather together in, say, the programming space upstairs, and we can do a training. So it helps to refocus and direct my efforts as we move forward. So I think this is great. It was a pleasure to work with Selectman Bermudez on it, and as long as we're all on the same page, I'm very comfortable with this as written, with that one addition for training.
Either of the other selectmen have comments?
Nicely done, in my opinion. It provides really good focal points for you to zero in on the things that this group thinks are important.
Dick?
Great.
Kelly, I would ask, please, could you revise this to add the word training as you discussed on 1C? To add the letters FY on 3A before the 24 there? And to put the
Yep.
date as our next regular meeting? And then if it isn't already, place this on the agenda so that we'll take the vote at a televised, I think, or some version of televised at a regular
We
meeting.
might be doing that soon.
Okay.
We didn't put the money for the hair and makeup department in there.
So we cover our nose.
Thank you both very much on that. Do we have minutes you want to bust through before we go to that?
No, I think Debbie was feeling optimistic. I haven't received anything for Monday's meeting.
That's fine.
And she's
She's
been out
been
sick.
sick.
Anything else from anyone before we move into executive session? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to move into executive session as detailed earlier in the meeting, and it's a roll call vote.
Vote
So
aye.
moved,
So moved.
Aye.
Second.
and I vote aye.
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you, David.
Have a good evening.
Thanks for the Excel suggestion.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm
We need the
leaving.
camera off, and we have a hand and sign out of the executive